So on the agenda tonight, we've got thick little spalls. I was asked, what do I do with these? Curved and thick. Well, let's see. I'm going to try to knap all three of these into little bifaces. Let me see if I can get a good snapshot. Really quick here. Let's see. And that's it. I'm just going to make little bifaces. Okay? Because you know what to do after that. The hard part is just getting past the shape. Yeah, and you can't get anything out of the full curve. You got to shorten it somewhere. Yeah. So I'll do this one first, since this one has most of the curving going on. All right. Let's see. As you know, I use a lot of indirect percussion, so that's how I tackle these. Especially the thinner ones. The thicker ones, sometimes I can use a little bopper. This one is about 2 ounces. It's a little bit too light. Let's see, what is this? 3.1 ounce, so it's about 3 ounces. This one's a little bit better. So I don't use only indirect. Oops. I don't know if that one had some weirdness to it in there, or if I did that. It is near the cortex. Anyway, that's why I have 3 pieces. Let's see. Much safer to do this with indirect percussion. And you might say, I don't want to lose any. I don't want to lose any of these. I'm saving them for a reason, so that they all become arrowheads. All of them. Yeah. Well, if you want to make arrowheads out of all of them, you got to be a little more careful. I really don't put much value on these, so if I break some, it doesn't matter. But you might be in the boat where it took you forever to get some that are really cruddy. You don't want to waste any of them. I can understand it, yeah. All right, so let's see, where is the other piece? These can be knapped too, but they're going to yield little ones unless you want me to do these too. We could try those. Let's just get the curve out of this one here. I got a little distracted. Well, that solves that problem. How do you maximize the length on these? Just got to be a little more careful. It's no big secret, really. Actually solves a lot of issues when you're forced to work with just little bitty ones. Yeah. If you want to preserve the length, it requires a bit of luck. Yeah. So if you're looking to make long arrow points, don't start with those that are really nasty, with the big old turtlebacks and difficult contours if you want the really long ones. Right? But you might say, well, that's the only thing I got to work with, and I have to make really long ones. I don't have a choice because my brain won't let me. They won't let me make short ones. I have to make long ones, no matter what. And then you'll suffer. You will suffer. Yes. I don't know how else to put it. Because trying to get long ones out of those is very difficult, as you found out, probably. You might say, well, I can do that. I can do what you're doing right now because you didn't preserve the whole length. I want the whole length. Well, I guess the more of these that you do, the easier it'll be. I was just doing really hard chert before this, so I haven't toned down my napping. You know what I mean? I'm hitting a little too hard. So I can grab some other ones too. Let's see. I should have brought more into the shop. All my obsidians in the house. All my little flakes. They're in the house because I don't want them in the shop. I have little baskets of flakes in the house. I don't nap them in the house. I just store them in there. They'll get stacked up in here, and it'll drive me nuts. I should have brought more out. I got a bunch of them like that with the turtlebacks. Bunches. So yeah, let's see. Let's just flatten this one and I'll go to the next one. The next one is still long, so what I'll do is I'll be extra careful with that one. These are good warm-ups. And this is snap and half-ish type stuff, so this is probably what you want to see, how to nap the stuff that snaps in half easy. You just got to be very careful. Still have to hit hard. You just have to be more careful about where you hit. The edge has to be just right. What is just right? I don't know. The just right zone is different for everybody. Some people need it in really strongly abraded areas, and some people need minimal abrading or only require a minimal amount of abrading. I haven't even looked in the viewfinder until just now. I hope everything was still in view. I'm hitting very hard. Because the flakes that are required are kind of thick. I have to take off relatively thick flakes, so it requires some hard hits. Can I do this with pressure? I have a hard time, personally, with pressure flaking at this size. Still. Unless I break a ton of them. Then I can Then I can do pressure flaking if I have a ton of these and I don't mind breaking half of them or maybe even 75% of them. I'll use pressure. I do snap a lot with pressure flakes. This doesn't shock the piece, believe it or not, as much as when I pressure flake it. So it's pretty flat. I hit that really, really hard. And nothing happened, which means it's probably got some incipients in there now. All right, so that's flat enough. See if I can do this without breaking it. Oops. Yeah, I caused some incipient cracks on that one for sure. All right, so that's flat enough. I'll come back to this one in a minute. Let's see, what is it? 1 and 5/16. Some arrowheads or arrow points, they were that long. This one is just under 2 inches, so we'll try to keep the whole length if possible, right? Let's see. Gotta warm up on the other two pieces. Let's try this one. It's not exactly the same material. This one is weaker than this. This one is kind of in between. So this is very weak and snap and halfish. This one is in between. This one is not as weak. It's got some clear areas in it. I can tell it's already that it's not going to be as weak as these two. So that's good. I'll be able to preserve length more easily when it's a stronger material. How can I tell? Well, usually this type of triple flow, when it's got a lot of clear, is stronger than the stuff that doesn't have any clear areas in it. I don't know why. I don't know why this clear stuff seems to be more flexible, less snap and halfish. Yeah. It didn't work. Just got to get used to it. Still not used to it. Even after those 2 warm-up pieces. Let's see if that did it. Pretty close. Come on. It's not good to hit it and then nothing happens, because it probably has lots of cracks in the edge. I call them incipients, but it's, technically they're incipient fractures. Incomplete fractures that can mess you up when you're striking that area for the second time. And if you ignore that area, sometimes the cracks will open up and go across the piece when you're working on on an area across from those cracks. What did I do? I'm gonna make a mess. Let's see. All right, let's see. What do we got so far? It's flattening out. Not too much abrading at this stage. What did I do? I captured a flake inside the glove. Hold on. Any little distraction will mess up my flint napping, especially with these little pieces that any little deviation is actually a big deviation. What seems like just a small, slight deviation from normal makes a big difference on small points. Okay. So if I get distracted by an itch from flakes inside the glove, it'll mess up my napping. That heater's too hot. Okay. Yeah, and it's starting to get to the sweat stage. Yeah. As I call it. All right. So the basic work is done. Now I just have to thin it. So I warmed up on a couple pieces. I think I can be careful enough now that I'm getting used to the material. Basic rules apply. Thin the ends first, which means I need to thin down this end first before I tackle the middle. And then I'm going to go to a smaller point. Yeah, see, it wants to dive in. It dived in. So I have to make sure I have good convexity on the flake path. My glasses are all getting dusty. That distracts from the napping as well. Okay, better. If I can't see, any little mess up translates into a big mess up with these little points. Yeah, see? That's a lot better. I can see better. Okay, come on. It wants to make me hit hard enough to break it. I have to be careful with those diving flakes, because that with obsidian, you never know how deep those go. Yeah, they look harmless right now, but you never know. So I'll get back to those in a minute. I have to clean those off, so I need to be worried about it, but not yet. This edge is really thick. I need to get this edge down so that I can start sending flakes from this edge. Right now, it's not a good surface for sending flakes into the middle. Not a good edge. The surface of the edge is not that great. It's too thick. It's good to have a thick edge, but not one that's too thick. Is it a whole different mindset to do these thick little spalls? Yes, it is. As a simple yes or no answer, the answer is yes. How different is it? How much does it matter? What kind of mindset is it exactly? That I don't know. It's just different. So yes, it's slightly different than a regular point because you have to deal with big turtlebacks and they require a lot of force. So it's a different mindset to be using a lot of force on little pieces. You might say, well, don't you use a lot of force no matter what? No, not no matter what. You gotta tone it down a little bit sometimes. In general, yes. Indirect percussion is like carving with a chainsaw. It uses a lot of force. But even when you carve with a chainsaw, you do have to sometimes be tiptoeing through the tulips with it, so to speak. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I could describe it in different terms, but I like the visual, yeah, of someone trying to carve with a chainsaw. Yeah. It's not easy unless you're working on something very large. You know, relatively, it's much, let's say it's easier to carve with a chainsaw on something large. Same with indirect percussion or direct percussion. If you're working on something large, it's easier. It's not easy, it's easier. Until you start getting into the thinning stage, then everything is, doesn't matter what it is, big or small, you're gonna have a hard time thinning it because that's the hardest part in flint knapping. Almost. That's there's a lot of different hard parts in flint knapping. Thinning is one of them, of course. Not cracking it and not doing something is just as important as the doing of things. Yeah, avoiding is one of the hardest things. Avoiding the cracks and avoiding the mistakes. It's not only the doing, but it's in the not doing as well. I can't be cracking the edge on this stuff. I can't be thinning it too much. Even though it looks like I could thin it more. I say to myself, I can thin it a little bit more. It's important not to go too far with these little ones. With a bigger point, and if you make a little scoop out, a lot of times you have enough room where, yeah, I got a little bit too thin in that area, but it's not like it's in danger of being too weak. It'll still hold together. You can still hit pretty hard if you need to remove a bad spot. But these little points, you get a bad spot, and sometimes it's like, oh well, if I hit any harder, it's gonna snap. You do have to take risks. Like I just took a risk on that one, but it turned out okay. All right, so that was the last big flake that I needed to remove. Everything else is just cosmetic now. I don't consider these big old thinning flakes to be cosmetic. I consider those to be damage control, and then the cosmetic stuff is what makes it look fancy. So after this, everything just makes it look fancy. Right? There's no clear distinctions, though, between what makes it look fancy and what is necessary. Oh, yeah. Someone also asked me to do everything with indirect percussion. Keep making videos where I do everything with indirect percussion. Yeah, I'll do more of those videos. I don't know about this one because it's so much easier to film the pressure flaking, even though it's a lot of times out of focus, but it is easier to film the pressure flaking than it is to film the percussion flaking. Is that going to detach? Is it going to detach? Yeah. I thought down here was the last biggest flake, but I guess not. I just took a big one off right there. Probably, well, yeah, I didn't expect it to be that big. Bigger than I expected. Yeah. Which is okay. Unless it dives in like that one. Did that dive in, or is it just met up with another flake from the other side? Yeah. So I'll go as far as I can with the indirect percussion without breaking it. I mean, go as far as I can without taking too much risk in breaking it. This edge is still kind of wonky. It's difficult to get rid of the big wonky areas with pressure. I end up pushing too hard and breaking it, snapping the whole thing. Indirect percussion is good for removing flakes from really bumpy areas without shocking the piece. Do it. Yeah. First, I thought I didn't do it. Come on. Finally did it. That's not good enough. Just a little bit more, and then I'll use the pressure flaker. Okay. So the length is still very close to 2 inches. Does have translucency? Yeah. Transparency in some areas, right? So big difference in size, but you can make similar arrowheads out of these. So I'm going to practice a little bit more on this one before I finish out the other one. I want to see how it pressure flakes. This one's more delicate, yes, I know, but it'll help me to get some practice on the pressure flaking. Okay. Dust on the camera. Yeah, knapping obsidian is very dusty. The edge is too fat. Have to be very careful with it. So I guess I could tell you what I'm doing. I'm looking at it to see how the symmetry is going, how the thickness is. Can I get it thinner? Where do I need to remove material from the edge to set up an area where I can drive flakes to thin it down? What is the overall shape going to be? Are there defects or mistakes from previous flakes that I need to remove? I do strategize a little bit. Although, obtaining this shape is a habit. All right. So my mind is already in the mode for obtaining the teardrop shape for almost every single type of point to begin with. And then I can, do the final shaping later. But it all starts with a teardrop shape. So I strategize how to get to the teardrop shape in the best way, so to speak. There's not one way, but there may be a best way. With close runner-ups to other ways to get there. I could still be doing indirect percussion on this instead of pressure flaking. I blew off too much of that side there. I think I'm going to put in a concave base. Yeah. So I'm going to do that now. No particular reason. I can make the base concave later, but now that I'm here, I might as well. So now I'm going to look to see where can I thin it. It needs to be thinned in the middle. Still, even after I removed the turtle back earlier, there's still further thinning to be done. Yeah. I can use indirect percussion for that. And also you'll notice that the pad interferes with the pressure flaking also. It stops the flakes in the middle because it's so small and this flake's so delicate that the pad interferes with the removal of the flakes. Now, if I use a slotted pad, it would be a little different. Yeah. It wouldn't interfere so much. Okay. So this is when I don't need my gloves because this is getting really delicate. The gloves will interfere with what I'm going to do now. So it's not good to have the gloves on right now, even though I risk cutting myself and distracting myself. Oh well. The gloves are getting in the way. There comes a time when the gloves start getting in the way because they're a little bit too bulky for this fine work. Well, that did not work at all, did it? Is it still stuck on there? Yeah. Oops, it's gonna make me hit it really hard. Come on. Yeah, hard enough to crack the edge and overshoot it. Hopefully it didn't crack the edge. Because it's even if it's that small, you can still crack the edge and it can still have an incipient crack that'll go across if you hit somewhere else really, really hard. Like right here. I'm hitting it really hard, so just be aware. If you can't tell, just be aware I am hitting it really hard. There is lots of risk involved. A lot of risk in these flakes that take off, relatively long flakes. Even though it's a small point, it still has the same risks as a big point as far as overshots and stuff. I shouldn't be doing this with percussion. Because it's too powerful. Yeah. It could run a flake too far and then do what they call a reverse hinge or diving flake. Because it runs it too far. I think I got lucky and nothing happened. All right. Do the rest with pressure. I think I can do the rest with pressure. Yeah. That heater is too hot. Either that or I'm sweating too much. Let's see. Getting too nervous. All right, let's see. How long is this one? Let me see. I don't know, almost inch and a quarter. Okay. All right. I put the gloves back on because the gloves do not interfere when I'm pressure flaking, and I don't like having all these little flakes get in between my fingers and the tool. So the first thing, just working on symmetry, seeing if there's fat spots that need to be picked off. Then I can worry about sending in some longer flakes. Right now, just short flakes. Yeah, there's a little bit of curve in it. Come on. Yeah. A little bit of tip lost. Okay. I see how it's going to go. It's going to try to get me all upset. Because pressure flaking the tip off is one of my pet peeves. It knows how angry I get when I pressure flake the tip right off. I used to get super angry. I don't get that angry anymore. It's no big deal. So I'm doing a combination of symmetry and long flakes and picking the edge, get rid of fat spots and little defects. Sometimes I can see where there might be a crack or something. I'll take back the edge and make sure it's solid. This tip is a little bit too fat for what I'm doing. As you can see that I ran a series of flakes. So I've got two passes on this side. See that? Now I gotta flip it over and run some passes on that side. Okay, but I need this to be more pointy. I was encountering some difficulty because it's not pointy enough. It's time for a new insert. Okay. So this is the final pass. I'm not going to get any thinner than this, or unless I can see a really thick spot. This next two passes are the final thinning. Okay, it's still kind of robust, but that's okay. It's Obsidian, so no need to take too much of a risk with the thinness, because it doesn't make much sense to have a really weak arrowhead. Yeah, you need to thin it to get it sharp, but you don't need it that thin. Let me see. I'm just going to repair the first side a little bit. I can see where the first pass didn't quite level it out. Okay. So hold on. The gloves are almost getting in the way. Almost. It's not too bad. pad is stopping the flakes, so let's just see if I can pick those out. If not, I'm going to have to send some flakes in from the other side. If these don't go away, yeah, I'll send in a few more flakes. Eventually, I'll get a little mini slotted pad, so I don't have to deal with that. That's good enough. Let's do the final thinning. Why don't I just put a slot in this pad? Because the slots are annoying to me. I need a special pad just with a slot that I can use on just certain occasions, you know? Not for a go-to pad. This is my go-to pad now. I lost my other one, my homemade one. So this is a Mike Tufts pad, slightly modified by cutting off these ends, but this is my go-to pad. I never use a slot on my go-to pad. But I would like to have a specialized or a set of specialized slotted pads for just this kind of work where I can see that the pad is interfering. Come on. The pad is interfering with the flake travel. Yeah. Did they actually make arrowheads like this, of this size? Yeah. I think especially when they wanted to make a bunch of arrows. The more arrows that you need to make, the smaller the points are. Just because you're trying to conserve material, um, but also because of mistakes. You have to take your mistakes into account. If you're making a lot of mistakes, you need a lot of points. So you're going to work all the little pieces. So you don't have to go out looking for more material. And then when you match up all the arrowheads with each other, they end up being small. You don't want a bunch of mismatched arrowheads that are too different in size. There's an overshot. Dang it. Not supposed to. It's just supposed to be a nice clean halfway shot. But now it was an overshot. And I didn't even push that hard. Okay. All that work on that edge to thin it down for nothing. I'm thickening it back up by taking it back. I gotta make it more narrow so you don't see that overshot defect. And I took off too much of the edge on the other side. Same flake, took off a lot of material from both sides. But now I know when to back off. Yeah, Gives me an idea. Well, I can't do that again. I know how hard I pushed, although it wasn't any harder than I pushed before. I gotta make sure I pay attention to the possibility that it could overshoot, even though it didn't before. It's getting to the point where it's unpredictable because the differences are so subtle with this little bitty point. You could argue that the differences are imperceptible, almost imperceptible. All right, here we go. That was the final thinning. Now I'm going to do the final shaping. Did it do it? I wanted a nice flake. No, it did not do it. No, it just stepped. Take it. I wanted a nice thinning flake up the center, but it didn't do it. Nope. It didn't even leave me room to pick at it. Okay. I'm going to do the notching. Now, I don't have a notching tool that is thin enough. It's not thin enough. So, I'm just going to have to make it thinner. Watch out, I put that arrowhead down over there. All right, here we go. I'm doing this with the file so I don't have to worry about hot metal with the that sander that I've got. That copper heats up way too fast. All right, let's see. This might not work that great. Yeah, it's already. It's so easy to bend over that edge and create a little burr. I don't want no burrs on it. Where are you? Okay, let's see what we can do. Now I've got that step fracture right there. I might be able to push a flake into that area to get rid of the step fracturing while I'm notching. It's a big if. I'm gonna try it. Did it do it? No. Almost. Oh, maybe it did. It helped. Let's try the other side. Let's see if that helped. It shot another flake that started to dive, but it helped a little bit. Okay, here we go. Doing the little persnicketies. Okay. Are we clear? I think we're clear. Yeah. All right. Now, if I can keep this in focus. I'm already wearing that down too much. I don't know. Spend all day doing that. Yeah, I widened the notch out because I don't want to break it. I don't want to break off a barb or an ear. I widened it out on the other side. I intentionally brushed up against the sides. Yeah, that's good. Pop out a good flake. That makes it thin for the next series of little flakes. Crunches. This will pop out on the other side, hopefully. And that's okay. Yeah, good enough. Okay. Now just to finish it out. Yeah. Finish it, finish it. Can't see it. These have got to be nice little snaps, no crunching going on right now. I'm not supposed to crunch the edges right now. Everything's got to be nice little snaps. But I can hear a lot of crunching. Yeah. Oh well. Just something else I got to get used to before it works. Got to figure out how to. There it goes. How to catch the edge just right to pop those flakes off so that they're not crunching the edge. It's okay to crunch the edge to make it a little bit dull for the next pass. But the final pass has to be little snaps. That's it. No crunching. In a perfect world, there's no crunching going on at the last stage. doesn't matter too much down here near the, I mean, at the base. You can crunch all you want down here. Were they this delicate with them? No, I don't think so. I'm just doing this for the video. Make it extra specially delicate. Yeah, I can run some more flakes maybe to clean that up a little bit, but oh well. I don't think I need to, or I don't want to. Let's see. Maybe there's a dull spot. Yeah, I could mess with it all day. That worked actually. Removed a little bit of that, whatever it was in there. Sticky flakes. Some flakes were stuck, didn't completely detach. I did crunch the edge a little bit though. Yeah. That's okay. If I mess with it too much, it's no fun anymore. Okay, so that's what I would do with the other one. Hold on. I worked on this small one so you can get to see a really small one, but I would do the same thing with this. Same shape. Okay? But I worked on this one because it's a little bit more difficult. And yeah, it's an arrow point. They were this tiny. Let's see. Let me get an arrow foreshaft. That's too big. I need more arrow foreshafts. Yeah, these are too big. I mean, it'll fit, but the notch doesn't need to be that deep. It only needs to be about that deep. Okay? This is an arrow foreshaft. Alrighty? See how the foreshaft width is the width of the neck. Yeah. Okay? Just doesn't need to be that deep. Alright. There you go. That's what I would do with this larger one. And I didn't lose any length, right? So, in a perfect world, the length stays the same until I make that concave right there. Yeah, like this one. And making it concave at the base actually helps you thin it down more. Right there. All right. Okay. There you go. That's it.